Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to today's installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open, the floor is yours. What are the things that you guys want to talk about? That is what we are here to discuss here today. My name, of course, is John Campea. I'll be your host today. And, you know, if you're new around here to an open mic, it's kind of more like a more laid back, relaxed version of the John Campea Show, where we're just going to sit around and chat for an hour, hour and a half, whatever, however long it takes us. We're going to just chat for a little bit here about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and streaming and all sorts of good stuff. Good to have you guys here. Had a fun show this morning. Me, Ray, Rob, Jonathan. It was kind of a fun one. It's good to have you guys here today. Now, just to let you know, there are two different ways to get a question or a topic on Open Mic. The first and primary way is to use our tip link. You can use that link anytime, 24 hours a day to send one in. And that tip link is at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. You can find a link for that down in the description below. The second way is if you're watching live, and you have to be watching live to use this method, is use the super chat feature that's over there in the live chat. Send one in that way, and we will address them here on Open Mic. All right. Now, hello to everybody who's joining us here. Good to see you guys here. I got Mr. Hank Dunn is asking me how the voice is feeling. Not going to lie, man. The voice is a little rough. You know, the chest part of the infection that I had is still hanging in there. I feel pretty good. But the cough was a little bit harsh today. I've already got hauls going. So again, like I've said the last couple of days, you guys will have to forgive me for constantly having to have the hauls in my mouth to help me breathe a little bit, all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, other than that, I'm actually feeling pretty good. So anyway, there's that. Now, before we get into the questions, which is the main reason why we're here, you know, somebody wrote to me this morning asking me, you know, everybody's saying Christopher Nolan is the odds-on favorite to win Best Director this year. And I'm still reading so many articles about how Greta Gerwig was robbed for a director. No, she wasn't. No, I mean, Greta Gerwig's great. I have a world of respect for her. She's been nominated before. She'll be nominated again. But I honestly, I would have picked the 5 people they nominated in front of her. So I don't think Greta Gerwig was snubbed. I wouldn't have complained. You know, I said yesterday, I wouldn't have complained if she did get nominated, because she did a great job. But I really don't think there's any complaining that she didn't get nominated, but because the 5 people in front of her are so great. But anyway, to the topic of Christopher Nolan, a person said to me, it's hard to believe, though, that Christopher Nolan's going to get it, because there have been several times before in the past that a lot of people thought this is going to be Christopher Nolan's year. Whether it was a Dark Knight movie, or whether it was a Dunkirk, or whether it was an Interstellar, a lot of people, many different times through the years, thought, oh my God, Christopher Nolan's got to get an Academy Award this year, right? And it hasn't happened yet. And this year, unlike other years, he's a front runner. He's the front runner. So will Christopher Nolan actually get that Academy Award this year? Well, it really all depends about how the Academy feels about the other people who are nominated. So, just to refresh everybody's memory, the nominees for Best Director this year are obviously Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. He's the frontrunner. Who's he got to beat? Yorgos Lanthimos, who I'm going to tell you what, could be the dark horse in this. I know a lot of you guys did not see Poor Things. I was late to it myself. It's a brilliant, wildly made movie that took a master's hand to direct. I'm not saying Yorgos deserves to win over Christopher Nolan. I'm simply saying don't sleep on Yorgos, because what he did with that movie is really damn impressive. Yorgos could be a dark horse. Jonathan Glazer for Zone of Interest, Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, and of course Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon. And Killers has a number of big nominations. And of course, whenever Martin Scorsese is in the race, Martin Scorsese is going to be a contender. I do think that this is the year for Christopher Nolan. I think this is it. Let me see if I can put it in here. Let me see if for those of you watching live. All right, I'm going to start a poll here. Will Nolan win the Best Director Oscar this year? All right, I'm putting that in. The options are simply yes and no. Because again, I don't think Justine is the big threat. I don't think Jonathan Glazer is the big threat. Scorsese's an outside dark horse, but I think Yorgos could be a challenge. And so I want you guys to chime in on this. Is Christopher Nolan going to win this year? Right now, we've already got 72 votes, and it's saying 100% of you, 100%, not a single dissenter, are saying that Christopher Nolan is going to win this year. Oh, now it's down to 95. 95% of you think that Christopher Nolan is going to win it this year. So yeah, ultimately for me, I think it really comes down to this. It is Christopher Nolan's to lose. If any other name gets read, I think it's going to be Yorgos for Poor Things. Because again, the job Yorgos did on that movie is remarkable. Is absolutely remarkable. But with Christopher Nolan kind of sweeping up everywhere else, it looks good. Somebody was mentioning in the live chat, Yorgos sounds like a villain name in a James Bond film. It absolutely does. 100% it does, no doubt. That's what it sounds like. So, but yeah, listen, I'm saying Yorgos is a dark horse. I'm not going to be shocked or fall out of my chair if he wins. But if I had to put $10 on it, yeah. It just, again, all signs seem to point to Nolan. It just seems to be he's the odds-on favorite. And I think Christopher Nolan is finally going to get that Best Director Academy Award. Best Director Academy Award. So, yeah, I think he's finally going to get it. All right. With that down, guys, let's get over to the questions you guys have been sending in, shall we? We're going to start off with the people who send in the questions on the tip link. So let's get things going there. We're going to start off with, no, that's the super chats. We're going to start off in the tip link with Gopala, who writes, the problem with SheHulk is that it tried to be a full show on 6 episodes. If it was a proper sitcom with more comedy writers focusing on SheHulk and her life with 15 plus episodes, it would have been better because there was potential. Some of the concepts were great. Look, I agree with the last part of your statement there. Conceptually, SheHulk had a lot going for it, man. I mean, I was ludicrously excited for this show. A Ally McBeal style procedural comedy with SheHulk in the MCU. 100%, that is a concept that can absolutely work. 100%. That is a concept that couldn't just work, but had the potential to be great. 100% great. And listen, you guys know I did not end up enjoying SheHulk, but it did some things good. It did some things right. I mean, Sir Malcolm in the live chat is saying, SheHulk needed more Wong. I'm not going to say it needed more Wong, but like, hey, the Wong stuff was actually pretty good. The Wong stuff was pretty good. I like the Daredevil stuff. And I didn't like so much that they completely CGI'd so much of his action, but him as a character, I think he worked as a character in the show. I think there were moments. I liked the nature of the relationship between Bruce and Jennifer. I thought that kind of worked. But you guys have heard me say this before. At the end of the day, the reason SheHulk did not work is because it was a comedy that was simply not funny. That's the problem. I guarantee you every other problem you can mention, whether it's number of episodes, whether it's storyline, whether it's this, that, or the other thing, none of it would be a problem if the show was funny. If the show was funny and made us laugh week in and week out over its short run, we wouldn't be talking about all the problems with the show. We just wouldn't be talking about it. We'd be talking about that show was hilarious. And that's the double-edged sword with comedies, right? The double-edged sword is your show can be terrible in almost every way. If you're a comedy, your show can be terrible in almost every way. But if you're consistently funny, none of the other stuff matters. Nothing else matters. If you're consistently funny, you win. But the other side of that double-edged sword is that even if you do a lot of stuff right in a comedy, if your jokes aren't funny, it doesn't matter. You can have an Oscar-worthy performance. You can have a deep narrative. You can have good character development. None of it'll matter. If you're a comedy and then you tell a whole bunch of jokes and they're not funny, it just makes your audience feel awkward and weird, and it just makes your show feel awkward and weird. And that's She-Hulk. She-Hulk was a comedy that wasn't funny. So I would propose, Gopla, that even if they had 15 episodes, if you can't make 6 episodes funny, there's, pardon me, there's no reason for me or anybody else to believe that you're going to be able to make 15 episodes funny. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyway. All right, next up. We've got Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes, I feel that the uneven episode times is not just about the Netflix approach, but that Feige has installed showrunners, and due to them being created by movie creators that do not have the skill set of a showrunner to design the pacing of a TV show. All right, so what I think Garden is referring to is one of the things that we learned recently was that the Marvel TV show, Disney Plus shows really, there were some exceptions, but for the most part did not have traditional showrunners. And when that news came out, when that revelation came out, that most of the Disney Plus shows did not have traditional showrunners, it's like a lot of us who watched Disney Plus went, that was the, like all of a sudden, a lot of things made sense, right? A lot of things made sense at that point. It's like, oh, that's why this would always happen. And that's why all these shows are inconsistent here and there. And that's why this happens here. It made a lot of them made more sense. And now with Kevin Feige installing proper showrunners, and one of the guys from the Netflix Punisher series is now the showrunner for Daredevil Born Again. I'm hopeful, it's not a guarantee, it's hopeful. I think more of us can be hopeful that it can be great. It can work out the structural issues and that it can be great. Just as Black Nerd says, She-Hulk isn't for guys, it's for us girls. I disagree. I think She-Hulk could be for everybody. I think stories about men can be for everybody. Stories about men can be for straight men, gay men, straight women, gay women, white women, black women, Asian women, whatever. A good story is for everybody, right? And I think She-Hulk, if it was funny, could have been for everybody. I really do. 100% think that it could have been for everybody. Anyway, Adam Summers is saying showrunner is just a fancy name for the main producer. No, it is not. 100% wrong. 100% wrong. A showrunner is a very different thing than a main producer, like wildly different responsibilities. So I just wanted to point that out. They're not the same thing at all. Anyway. Okay, let's keep going here. Next up, we got Vaughn Eric Claw writes, hey, John and crew, just John, no crew. I may have missed it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Ironclaw. We've said our thoughts on Ironclaw many, many, many times. I really enjoyed the movie and thought the acting from the cast was great. It was, 100% it was. It's Adele's favorite movie of 2023. So what are your thoughts on Ironclaw? We've already gone over this many times, but I'll say it again. Devastating, not a feel-good time at the movies, but powerful. I loved the movie. I thought it was really great. Not in my top 10 films of the year, but I really enjoyed it. And you guys know I'm a big Zac Efron fan. I think this was Zac Efron really, no pun intended, flexing his acting muscles. I thought he was great in it. I thought all the performances were great, and I really, really enjoyed the film. All right. Next up, we've got anonymous writer who writes, if you didn't cover the upcoming Benny Safdie Dwayne, oh, this fucking thing again? Okay, whatever. Let's do this. If you didn't cover the upcoming Benny Safdie Dwayne Johnson movie, because the movie itself has to excite you first, it has to be asked, why doesn't this movie excite you? On paper, it at least seems to be a movie to be more exciting prospect than Red One. Okay, so just to give you guys some of the reason I roll my eyes at this is every once in a while I get somebody with a definitive agenda right? That just has a particular issue. And this person, I mean, it's just listed as anonymous. I suppose it theoretically could have been another person, but this person like wrote in, how come you didn't cover when the news broke that this A24 movie is going to star Dwayne Johnson? I'm just like, well, number one, we don't cover every movie announcement because a lot of movies that get announced never happen. But also I said, it all depends. Like, we've got to make sure we do stories. We only have time to do 4 or 5 or 6 stories a day. And we want to make sure we do stories that people are going to be interested in and excited about. And ones that aren't as interesting or as exciting yet, we'll probably pass on for other stories that are more definitive. And this person asked, you said Dwayne Johnson's one of your favorite movie stars, and how come you didn't cover this? And I explained it, but apparently they want me to explain it again. Okay, look. We'll go over this again. On the John Campea Show, we do not cover every movie news story out there. Every day when I load up my movie news feeds, there's 15, 20, 25, 30 potential stories. Not all of them are particularly interesting. Most of them are not. Not all of them will be ones that our audience, is particularly interested in and stuff like that. And the reality is, just movie announcement stories, unless they're part of franchises that everybody already knows and recognizes, we don't cover 9 out of every 10 movie announcements. Every once in a while we will. We definitely will for franchise films, a new Harry Potter, a new Star Wars, a new DC film, a new James Bond. Sure, because people know those and they get excited about them. And there are certainly certain things about this A24 movie that, Benny Safdie, who, by the way, if you ask most people watching, couldn't name 2 movies that Benny's directed, and Dwayne Johnson, a lot of people could tell you what Dwayne Johnson's done, are doing. Like, for instance, for me, it's going to be about a UFC fighter, right? Obviously, that interests me. But it's not a huge story yet. And it probably came out on a day when we had other more interesting things to talk about. And once a news story is old news, we don't go back and cover it again, right? News that broke 3 days ago, we don't cover, unless it's Monday and news broke late Friday night, then we cover that. But you know what I'm saying? So the question isn't, why didn't we? The question is, why should we have? And by the way, once images start coming out and once trailers start dropping, yeah, we're definitely going to talk about this. If the movie happens, we'll definitely talk about it. But the reality is, unless it's a major franchise, 9 out of 10 just announcements that a movie's coming, we don't cover those. Unless it's really a particularly slow movie day. So yeah, anyway, there's that. All right. Next up, we've got BK Dan who writes, John, riddle me this. What if John Wick were actually Neo's avatar in the Matrix? Imagine that crossover. You'd never unsee that thought. It would ruin it, though. I know you're saying that in fun, but it would ruin it, right? It would ruin the specialness of John Wick because, he's just in the Matrix and he can do the things the Chosen can do in the Matrix. Then it takes all that specialness away. So I know you're just joking, but I mean, I honestly think that would kind of ruin John Wick. That's kind of my thought anyway. All right. Let's see. Scott Brown writes, to me, Spider-Verse should have been nominated for Best Picture. I agree. Do you think an animated movie will ever get nominated for Best Picture again? Since the Academy came up with the Best Animated category, not a single movie has been nominated for Best Picture. Oh, that's not true. That's not true at all. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the live chat, correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe the Academy introduced the Best Animated category, I believe around 2000, 2001, or 2002. Again, correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, but I think that's when they introduced the Best Animated category, was either 2000, 2001, or 2002. Roberto is saying it was 2001. Okay. So, and since 2001, 2 animated films have been nominated for Best Picture. Up, the masterpiece from Pixar, and Toy Story 3, another masterpiece from Pixar. There are others that should have as well. But yes, once they introduced that two times in the 23 years since they introduced the Best Animated category, animated films have been nominated. And once before that, and that was, of course, the animated Beauty and the Beast, was the first ever animated film to be nominated for Best Picture. It's hard to imagine if they're not going to give a Best Picture nomination to Spider-Man. By the way, I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the 3rd best film that year. I believe it was 2018. I only had Black Klansman and why am I freezing on the John Krasinski horror film? Sorry, I have 1,000 movie titles going through my head every 5 minutes. Don't say a word. Quiet Place. Quiet Place. So I only thought in 2018, Black Klansman and Quiet Place were better. I thought that should have been nominated as well. I think there are several times animated films should have been nominated for Best Picture. Will it happen again? I don't know. I really don't, because it honestly feels to me, and I mentioned this on the John Campea Show earlier today, it honestly feels to me like the Academy made up the Best Animated category to give themselves an excuse not to nominate animated films for Best Picture. And to me, a Best Picture is a Best Picture. Whether it's animated, live action, stick figures, I don't care. Best movie is best movie. So I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know if they'll ever nominate one again. If they're not going to nominate Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse, it's hard to believe. It's hard to know. It's hard to know. Hopefully they will. Fingers crossed. Hopefully they will, but I don't have a lot of hope, but hopefully they would. All right. Next up, Garden Variety Vagabond writes, with Dwayne Johnson now on the WWE board, he negotiated that he now owns the trademark of The Rock. Is there a financial profit that he will gain from owning it? No, not really. But what it does is he makes sure now that The Rock will ever be associated with him, right? Somebody else can't start coming along and use Rock. And by the way, in professional wrestling, Dwayne Johnson wasn't the first guy to use the name The Rock. I remember in my much, much younger days, I was a kid. I don't know if any of you guys will remember this. Let me ask you, anybody in the live chat know who I'm about to say that also used the nickname The Rock? Don't look it up on Google. Do any of you know who I'm talking about? Let me see if anybody wants to put it in there. No? There was a wrestler by the name of Don Morocco. Don The Rock Morocco. Actually, let me see if I can find a picture of him. He was a beast. I'll say Don The Rock Morocco. He was absolutely massive. Let me see if I can bring this up here. He was a big, big boy. Don The Rock Morocco. Again, this is back when I was a kid. But yeah, he was a super beast. He was a super beast. Loved him. But yeah, but Dwayne The Rock Johnson really did cement that name as his own, right? And so now that name will be his in terms of wrestling and stuff like that. All right. Next up, we go to, again, Garden Variety Vagabond, who writes 2 points on America Ferrera's speech from an interview on Late Night. Number one, she helped write her own speech. If you're talking about that monologue from Barbie, from personal experience. Two, it is being reported that speech is becoming a popular speech for auditions. Oh, I can 100% believe that. Listen, I heard a lot of people complaining. Now, just to be clear, if I was an Academy member, I would not have nominated America Ferrera for Best Supporting Actress for Barbie. Just to be clear, she was great in it, but I wouldn't have given her one of the nominations. Are we clear? Okay. That being said, and we talked about this the other day, I see a lot of people saying, well, she only got nominated because of that one monologue in the movie. But that's like saying, you know, LeBron James is only the all-time scoring leader because he scored the most points. I mean, that monologue in Barbie is so good, and it only works if whoever is acting out and speaking that monologue nails it. And she nailed it. And as we've said before, in the history of the Oscars will often look for a supporting actor or actress, even if it's just like one scene that the supporting actor or actress did that really elevated the movie. Dame Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love, William Hurt in History of Violence. There is a history of this, right? And I have no argument with that. Like if an Academy member would say to me, it's like, look, America Ferrera's one scene, that scene made the movie. And that scene on its own elevated the entire film. Then I would go, okay, then I've got no problem with the fact that you nominated. I mean, again, I wouldn't have nominated her myself, but I understand. I understand why she got, because she did completely crush that scene. And that scene was the heart and soul of the movie to me. That one scene to me was the heart and soul of the movie. And yeah, she did great. Again, I wouldn't have nominated her myself, but I can totally understand why others did nominate her. All right. Next up. Twilight Boy writes, one thing I'll give the Rey movie. At least it's going forward and not stuck in the Skywalker/Mandoverse era. Though it's much safer, I hate the idea of a Mando movie just because I want to go forward in the Star Wars galaxy, at least for the movies. You know what, Twilight Boy? I 100% agree with you. I mean, again, I still think it's a mistake to do a Rey movie. It might end up being good. I hope it is. I think it's a mistake to do this movie. But even though I think it's a mistake, at least it is moving forward. Because didn't they say it was going to be like 20 or 30 years further in the future? Yeah, I like that. I do like that. Again, it doesn't take away my hesitations about the movies and some of my fears about them doing this movie. But at the very least, it's doing the right thing in general, that it's moving ahead in time and moving the story forward. So that I do like. I do like that a lot. All right. Next up. Twilight Boy also writes, man, after what Lundgren said about, I want Drago. Incorporating the Russian invasion of the Ukraine is such a bold yet inspired creative choice. It would be so interesting seeing Ivan come to terms with the country he once represented, doing what they did. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Twilight Boy is talking about, Dolph Lundgren recently made comments suggesting that this Drago movie may actually still be in development. They may still be working on it. And he talked about the fact that the idea and the pitch was, when you see Drago and his son at the beginning of Rocky 2, they're in the Ukraine. Lundgren points this out. They're in the Ukraine. And he suggested that they might be using current real world events like Rocky 4 did, using the real Cold War as the background for, Rocky versus Drago. Dolph Lundgren suggested that they could be using the real world events of Russia's invasion of the Ukraine and how that motivated Drago to move him and his son to the United States. And it's actually a really neat idea. You could do something pretty neat with that. So, yeah, we'll see. Angel is saying nobody really cares about Drago. Hate to break it to you, man. Yes, they do. Because you know what? I do. And certainly not everybody agrees with me, but I kind of represent a good chunk of film viewers. So you are 100% wrong when you say nobody cares about Drago. I think a lot of people would be very interested in a Drago film. I'm not saying it'll make $500 million in the box office, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people would be very interested in the right put together story. I think it could be really, really interesting. I like that a lot. All right. Next up, we go to Tack, who writes, something I've noticed with many recent streaming series is the first season will be a complete story on its own, but with just enough open threads to justify more seasons if it's a hit. If not, it gets labeled as a limited series. Was this a good compromise? I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, every series starts wanting to be like, look, there are series that come out that are intended to be limited series, right? So what was the one with Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon? Was that called Big Little Lies? Help me out. I think it was called Big Little Lies. But that was meant to be a limited series. It was meant to be a one and done series. The problem, and they even ran it in the awards categories for limited series and stuff like that. The quote unquote problem was that it was a massive smash hit. And hence they made the decision that even though it was a limited series to come back, I don't think they make a series with the intention of it being a multiple season series. And then if it didn't work, just label it a limited series. I don't think they do that. There might be an example of one or two of when it's happened, but I don't think really on whole, I don't think that's what they do. Now, that being said, you know, I've said many times that like Supernatural, I love the Supernatural show. Loved, past tense, the show's over, but still, I loved that show. They handled it right? In Supernatural, every season was its own story. And when you got to the season finale, they always wrapped up the story of the season and then spend the last 5 minutes opening up what the next season was going to be about. And I think every season of a show should wrap up a particular story. There should be some satisfaction at the end of every season, even if you're keeping certain doors open and leaving to a next. But I like it when they do that. That's why I think Supernatural did it great. All right. Next up, we've got Anonymous, who writes, dissing on Xbox, John? This is going back to what we were talking about yesterday. Well, prepare for a reckoning. Now, I may be a 42-year-old virgin living in my mom's basement and pay for rent by working at a hot dog on a stick, but carry on. I feel like I should question some of my life choices. Of course, this is going back to yesterday's show, where I talked about the incident where, you know, I own a PlayStation 5, Ray owns an Xbox, and we were joking around, right? And I was making a joke about him being an Xbox owner. I said, just because you choose to be a second-class citizen, right? Like, sports fans get it when you jab each other's sports teams. Video game fans super have their little panties stuck up their pucker holes. It's like, oh, you dare speak against my corporate masters, my Xbox masters or PlayStation masters or Nintendo master, whichever master you serve. It's absolutely, it was hilarious to me getting some messages from people who were so hurt, so angry that I made that joke, and equally chuckling at a couple of, not many, but a couple of PlayStation 5 like fanboys writing to me. It's like, yeah, stick it to those Xbox losers. I'm like, do you know I was just kidding, right? Like, I have a PlayStation 5, but I barely touch it. I mean, anyway, it's just, it's kind of funny the way fandom is sometimes. All right. Next up, Save the Legends of Tomorrow writes, with the Waller series and Peacemaker season 2 still happening, why can't James Gunn just make the Suicide Squad? I feel like you sent in this question already. Make the Suicide Squad the official start of the DCU because he doesn't want all the characters or all the events of the Suicide Squad to be canon with the new DCU. It's probably some of it stands in contradiction to what he wants to do with the DCU. Anyway, to make things easy canon-wise, the Suicide Squad doesn't have any hard DCEU references. Plus, it's a bloody awesome movie. And listen, Legends of Tomorrow, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is a bloody awesome movie. But here's a truth bomb. Ain't nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. I'm going to bring this up. The Suicide Squad box office. Okay. Here we go. The Suicide Squad grand total made $168 million. Nobody went to go see it. Nobody knows it. Nobody cares. I agree with you. This movie is awesome. It's awesome. I love it. But just because you and I love it, doesn't change the reality that ain't nobody saw it. Nobody went to go see it. It didn't even do all that great on, because I know you can say, well, it was release day and date on HBO Max. Yeah. But even on HBO Max, remember we talked about on the show a couple of years ago, not a lot of people watch it on HBO Max either. So the question is not, why can't he just use the Suicide Squad as the start of the DCU? The question is, why would he? Why would he? Plus, in his new DCU, he probably doesn't want to start with this background baggage of, a giant starfish attacked a city and blah, blah. It's just a lot cleaner, I think, for him to just do it the way he's doing it. And I think the way he's doing it is the right way. Now, who knows? He might change his mind later. He might. But I think the way he's doing it is the right way to go about it. But that's just me. But you and I can know that the Suicide Squad is awesome. It's just that nobody else saw it to know that it was awesome. All right. Then we're wrapping it up here with Dominic Sum, who writes, I believe the golden age of the online movie sphere was from Comic-Con 2013, Bats vs. Soups announcement, to the release of Force Awakens in late 2015. So many amazing shows and personalities burst onto the scene, and the fandom was overall a more kind and fun place. Well, I don't know that I agree. I mean, that was certainly a good era. That 2013 to 2015 era, that was certainly a good era. I don't know that it was the best era. I mean, man, some of the stuff that we had in, like from 2017 to 2019 was pretty good. Or even like 2015 on was pretty good too. But I mean, I think when you pinpoint any small era, by small I mean just 1 or 2 years as opposed to decades. When you pinpoint any small era, you're going to find a lot of big upsides, some drawbacks for sure. But that was a good one. Like that's absolutely a good one. All right, guys, listen. We're now going to move on and start taking the live questions that you guys have been sending in. But before we do, we're going to take a moment and hear from the sponsors of our show here today. My mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile, the good folks keeping me clean and shaved at Manscaped, and the folks feeding us at Factor. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. Roses are red, violets are blue. Trim your balls, and your date will thank us too. What's up, guys? Valentine's Day is knocking, and Manscaped is the remedy for what the love doctor ordered. His prescription? The all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game and shine like the beast you are. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com to get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea. Guys, listen, like a lot of you, I used to shave my package like the Neanderthals did, using, the clippers on your electric razor, but that's that's not what you need for excellence on Valentine's Day. So let's talk about the hero of Valentine's Day, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This electric trimmer features skin-safe technology guarding your Valentine's Day treasure against any grooming mishaps. This package also features the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and hair trimmer, Manscaped liquid formulations, and 2 free goodies, the Shed Travel Bag and Boxers 2.0, because comfort is king for all my guys. So elevate your grooming game routine and set the stage for a romantically smooth celebration. So guys, get 20% off and free shipping with the code Campea at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code Campea because your grooming upgrade awaits, ready to charm your Valentine's dates. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Factor. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery store and prep work because you know what? Sometimes we just don't feel like prepping our own meals. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Forget frantic lunch preps and rushed dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. Fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals, all delivered right to your door. And Factor now offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep me going no matter what's on the schedule. It's time to skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. And Factor is flexible. Change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. So guys, head to factormeals.com/Campea50 and use the code Campea50 to get 50% off. That's code Campea50 at factormeals.com/Campea50 to get 50% off. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile, Manscaped, and Factor for sponsoring today's episodes. All right, guys, with that all down, let's get over to your live questions that you guys have been sending in from the chat. And we're going to get things started off here with, is it there? Yes. Mr. Hank Dunn, who writes, what does he write? There it is. I kind of hope that James Gunn doesn't use the Williams Superman theme in Superman Legacy. I don't know, but when they used it for Cavill, the 1 or 2 times, it just felt off. I'm going to disagree with you. Now, listen, I am one of these people that believes each new Superman should have their own theme. 100%. I believe each new Superman should have their own theme. I love Christopher Reeve's John Williams theme. I love Henry Cavill's theme. Hopefully I'll love whatever the new Superman theme is going to be. That being said, Superman was around long before Christopher Reeve, and but that soundbite, bum 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 bum. There's something so iconic that transcends John Williams, transcends Christopher Reeve, transcends era. So, while I completely believe that this new Superman should have their own theme, the idea of having just a little thing in there at a special moment of that bum, 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 like I think could be very powerful and impactful. Again, used sparingly, used short, and only used maybe once per movie. But I think it could be pretty good. I mean, that's just me. I could totally see where you're coming from too. I could totally see you saying that, well, you know what? It kind of takes me out of the moment. It kind of takes me out of the movie to spot. And I get that. I get that. I really do. I understand that. But for me, it kind of works if done right and not overused. But that's kind of my thought. All right. Next up, we got JW who writes, did I miss your top 10 of 2023? Nope, I didn't do one. By the end of the year, because of a lot of factors that I've talked about before, I wasn't able to see Poor Things. And without seeing Poor Things, considering how many people were saying it was one of the best films of the year, I just didn't feel like I should put together a top 10 list. Now, you might be saying, but John, you've seen it now. I have But for me, it's too late. It's too late to do a top 10 of 2023. That window has come and gone and opened and closed. So that's why I have not done them. But you guys know, I think Oppenheimer is one of the best of the year. I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the best film of the year. I've got Air on my list. Poor Things would be up there. Killers of the Flower Moon. But again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing or whatever. So it's just me, right? Like if I can't review a movie on its opening weekend, I won't review the movie. I think there is a window of time to do something. And if you miss that window of time to do it, you've missed it. So that's why I didn't do one myself. All right. Next up, we've got Murray Reich. Writes, man, that ISS movie was tense, although I was kind of dumbfounded by the ending. Me too. On side note, do movies with ambiguous endings drive you nuts? Yes. Yeah. I mean, even in my first of all, ISS I think is a wonderful film. I think it's not going to end up in my top 10 films of the year, but I thought it was a really, really good film. But even in my out of the theater reaction, I said, the ending though. It like that kind of ending to me is very unsatisfying. Like even Inception, to me, that ending drives me a little bit nuts. Like definitively tell us, like we as the audience have sat through this story. Tell us what ultimately was the reality. And they leave it ambiguous. Ooh, was that top still spinning or was it starting to fall over? I mean, I feel like, dude, we just sat through 3 hours of this movie. We earned it. You should tell us what it was. So yes, for me, I do believe it does drive me nuts when a movie's left ambiguous. Unless ambiguity in and of itself is a definitive thing, leaving a movie with an ambiguous end, like the ending of ISS, does drive me a little bit crazy. It does, Murray. All right, next up, we got Brandon, who writes, man, the new episode of Percy Jackson was so good. It was. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. The quality of this Percy Jackson movie only makes me more frustrated at the sometimes lack of quality in some Star Wars and Marvel stuff they put up on Disney Plus. Because clearly you can do great stuff. We had WandaVision, we had Ms. Marvel, we had Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. And now we've got Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Clearly, you can do great stuff. It's just that sometimes it feels like they choose not to. But yeah, I really did enjoy the new episode quite a bit. I can't wait to see Edge fighting Percy next week. That'll be great. You think you know me. Only wrestling fans will know what that means. Anyway, Brandon writes, looks like Netflix is pulling a Zaslav and axing their new Halle Berry sci-fi film, The Mothership, after it's already been shot completely. Really? That's interesting. Oh, let me look this up. Mothership, Netflix. I want to see what's going on here. Is that true? There it is. And it's already been shot? Really? Let me bring this up here. So Netflix scraps Halle Berry's film Mothership after multiple post-production delays. Oh, so it's not been completed. It was shot, but not completed. I see. So Netflix has scrapped the release of Mothership science fiction star, and the movie finished filming in 2020, but couldn't be completed after multiple delays in post-production. Variety has confirmed the Mothership is the latest Hollywood movie to disappear, even though filming had wrapped. So filming had been done, but post-production was not done. The movie was not done. That makes more sense. Like what I thought you were saying was that the movie was done, but it was only shot. Okay. Yeah, I guess they're just looking at look, I haven't read the full article. I don't know the ins and outs of the stories yet, but I mean, yeah, if they looked at it and thought, you know what, with all the money it's going to cost us to get the post-production back up and running and finishing it and all that kind of stuff, not worth it to us now. I guess I'm just saying that having not read the full story yet. We'll probably talk about this on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Thanks for bringing that up, Brandon. All right, next up. Josh C. writes, I just watched the Ted series, and my God, the show is hilarious. Admittedly, I am a Seth MacFarlane fan, and this reminded me of classic Family Guy. I have only watched half of the first episode. I was mentioning this the other day. I've only seen half of the first episode of the Ted series, and I laughed a lot. It's funny. It's really funny. But yeah, one of the things I think I was talking to Rob about, I said, it feels like a Family Guy episode. Like they do the same exterior shots of the house with very Family Guy sounding music, ba, 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 boo, like very Family Guy sounding music and music cues and stuff like that. But again, I've only seen half of one episode, but I am looking forward to watching the rest because it was pretty damn funny. All right, next up. Patrick Hamilton writes, are there any IPs that you want to see continue? Matrix, Pirates, Die Hard, just a few examples. I mean, not really, other than ones that are already still continuing, you know, the MCU, Star Wars, you know, stuff like that. Not really. I mean, it was especially after Matrix Resurrection. Is that what it was called? Oh, yuck. That movie was terrible. It's time for the Matrix to be done. It is absolutely time for Pirates to be done, unless you reboot it. But otherwise, Die Hard, absolutely long beyond its shelf life. Again, maybe a reboot someday, but yeah, not off the top of my head. I mean, there are certain things I wouldn't mind seeing rebooted, but IPs to continue that aren't already ongoing. Yeah, I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Other than say Mystery Men, but that's not an IP. That was like one single movie 30 years ago. So yeah, I can't really think of any off the top of my head. All right. John Redcorn writes, early tracking for Argyle is 25 million opening. Ouch. Yeah, that's not good. I mean, listen, a $25 million opening for a movie that costs like 75 million to make wouldn't be bad. But from what I understand, and I could be wrong, from what I understand, Argyle was a $200 million movie. A $25 million opening is not... Listen, they haven't done a great job marketing the film. They have not done a great job of marketing this film. I mean, I've liked the trailers I've seen, but they're really... Each trailer I've seen for Argyle feel like a first trailer. Just say, hey guys, a movie about a writer who writes something and actually happens. Okay. But now give us something in trailers with a little bit more meat. Like we were told this was a Henry Cavill movie. We hardly see Henry Cavill in the trailers. What's this? They're not doing a good job marketing this film. And not that I think Argyle was ever going to be an $800 million movie anyway. But I'm excited to see it nonetheless. But yeah, hopefully it opens to more than that. Hopefully it opens, because it's a $200 million movie. It needs to open to more than $25 million. All right, next up, we got Fang Blaze, who writes, I may be a bit late to the party, but God, Spider-Verse got snubbed big time at the Oscars, especially for music and score. Maybe one or two for best original song, but I didn't think it got snubbed for score. I thought the score was very good. I don't think it got snubbed for score. I definitely think it got snubbed for best picture. I mean, look, Academy, just say it. Just say it. Take the weight off your shoulders. Just say it. We don't believe cartoons should be considered for best picture. Just say it. Just admit it. Because you didn't have to make it win, but this movie is a masterpiece and it should have been nominated for best picture. 100%. There are 4 films easy I would bump out of the way for Spider-Verse on that list. Just admit it. Just come out and admit, say, and here are the nominees for best picture. We remind everybody, cartoons are not eligible to be nominated for best picture. Just admit it at this point. We all know. You've made it very obvious. So just admit it. You'll feel better. Academy, you'll feel better. All right, next up. Richard Lay writes, do you believe the rumors that Nolan is slowly coming back to WB with the release of Tenet? Or with the re-release of Tenet? It's possible, but here's the thing. A director is not limited to making films with one studio. A director can make a movie with any studio they want at any time. Some directors like to work with a particular studio. Some directors will sign a first look deal, all that kind of stuff. But directors are free to make movies with whoever they want. Now, remember, about 5 or 6 months ago, that report came out that Christopher Nolan was seen at the WB lot having lunch with David Zaslav. And since then, the WB studio heads have made big public statements about how they would love to make movies with Christopher Nolan again. Do I believe, because remember, the Warner Brothers he got pissed off at was a different Warner Brothers. That was the Warner Brothers that was under AT&T. This is a totally different Warner Brothers. This isn't the same company that he was pissed off at before. So do I believe we will see Christopher Nolan make a movie again with Warner Brothers? Absolutely. Do I think we'll get to the point where we see Warner Brothers that Christopher Nolan only makes movies with Warner Brothers? No, but I think he'll make movies with Warner Brothers again, 1 or 2. I think that'll happen. All right. Next up, we got CR, who sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, CR, for supporting us on that level, man. And CR writes, every day I scroll through YouTube and I see a pic of an actor thinking he or she passed away. Then I click show more and it turns out they won some sort of award. Deep breath of relief. Yeah, it happens. Here's the other thing that happened once. Oh, I remember what it was. Tom Hanks. I saw this headline once, and it was purposefully done this way. But I remember, because Tom Hanks is America's dad, right? I love Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is my wife's favorite human being. I was this headline like, woman comes, it's a big picture of Tom Hanks. Woman comes forward with story of Tom Hanks. And I remember this. Do you guys remember this? This is like a couple, maybe 2 years ago. Woman comes forward with story of Tom Hanks. And it's like, oh no, not Tom. Not Tom. No, anybody but Tom. And then you open up the story and you start reading. And it's like that Tom Hanks was in a particular place and he heard there was a wedding going on up the road, and that, you know, that either the bride or the groom was a big fan of one of his movies, and that he literally went, oh, okay. And he just went out of his way to go up the street to where this wedding was happening and come in to surprise the bride and groom with being there. Of course, it was just a story of Tom Hanks being awesome, right? But yeah, every once in a while, especially if it's an older actor or actress, you see a thumbnail with just their picture, and before you even have a chance to read what the headline is, being able to read what the headline is, you're like, oh no, did they pass away? And so everything was fine. All right, next up, we've got Mike Hill writes, what do you think it's going to take for the Snyder fans and other regular fans to unite and get behind the new DCU? There seems to be a huge divide. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Snyder fans are not one particular breed. All right. I myself am a Snyder fan. Up until, God, I keep forgetting the name of his new movie that's on Netflix. It's awful, but somebody remind me again. What's the name of the new movie? I keep forgetting it. Anyway, up until this new movie he just did, Rebel Moon. Thank you, Michael Gonzalez. Up until Rebel Moon, of all Zack Snyder's movies, there's only ever been one I didn't like. And that was Sucker Punch. With Anne's friend. Jamie was in that movie. It's the only movie of his I didn't like. I'm a Snyder fan. There are lots of people who are Zack Snyder fans that are totally rational human beings. There are even a lot of people who were part of the Release the Snyder Cut movement that are totally, completely rational human beings. You know, a lot of the people who were part of the Release the Snyder Cut movement were just people that really wanted to see the Snyder Cut. And maybe they'd sign some petitions or retweet something or something like that. Totally fine. All good. Good fandom, blah, blah, blah. It is only a small percentage, but a loud percentage of these psychopaths who want to burn the earth until they get what they want. right? But that's a small percent. You can't paint all Snyder fans with one brush like that, right? Because a lot of them are just perfectly rash. A lot of them never bullied anybody online to try to get what they want. Not most of them didn't spread misinformation and lies about numbers and whatever. Most of them didn't do that. So I think there are a lot of Snyder fans, to be honest with you. I think there are a lot of Snyder fans who are going to be open-minded to the new DCU. And I mean open-minded as we'll wait and see. If Superman Legacy is good, great. But if it's not good, we're not going to pretend it's good. That's all you can ask of anybody. And I honestly think most Snyder fans are going to approach it that way. Now, yes, you will get your odd loser who's going to be, no matter what, right? You're going to get some of those people. But honestly, I think the majority of people who would classify themselves as Snyder fans are going to approach the new James Gunn DCU like anybody else, with a open mind, and it's like, we'll wait and see. If it's good, great. But if it's not good, then I'm out, right? And I think that's totally fair. I think that's totally fair and totally rational. And that's how I think it'll go. So to answer your question, what do I think it's going to take for people to get on board? James Gunn has got to make good movies. And if he makes Superman Legacy as good as the Suicide Squad, if he makes Superman Legacy as good as his Guardians films, if he makes Superman Legacy as good as Slither, which is still, I think, his best movie, then people will get on board. But if it's not good, I don't know that you're going to get a second chance to make a first impression. So it's up to him. It's up to James Gunn. You want people to get on board? You better deliver a damn good movie with Superman Legacy. I mean, like, no pressure. No pressure, James. But you got to deliver a really good movie. And that's what it's going to take. So we'll see. All right. Next up, we've got Jonathan Vigoa, who writes, John, did you hear about Jon Stewart's return to The Daily Show? Yep. It's only on Mondays, but I love this news. Did you ever watch Jon Stewart back in the days? Yeah, no, Jon Stewart is honestly one of the most brilliant guys in media. One of the most brilliant guys in media. I still remember, I can't remember, I think it was called Crossfire. Was that the name of the show? It was Crossfire, where you had, it was this political show where you had this conservative Republican and this liberal Democrat. And they would just debate, but all they would do is, like, the Democrat would be like, anything the Republicans stand for is awful. And the Republican is like, anything the Democrats stand for is awful. And I remember they got Jon Stewart on that show, was a guest on the show. And I'll never forget, it's one of the most brilliant things that's ever been televised on TV. Because Jon Stewart called them both out. And he looked at both of them, he's like, and this was the line, you, talking to the two pundits, you are hurting us. You're hurting us. And he was right. Because that political divide is now more prominent than ever today. And it was a profound moment in television. A lot of people say that's what led to the end of that show. Because Jon Stewart just called it out and said, like, you just hating anything that the Republicans stand for because Republicans are behind it, and you just hating anything Democrats for just because Democrats are behind it, that is killing dialogue. It's killing exchanges. It's killing the furtherment of ideas. It's hurting us. And I know I say this as a Canadian, but to all my American friends, your fucking political system is a fucking mess. I know you don't need me to tell you that. I know you already know that, but your fucking political system is a fucking mess. And yeah, Jon Stewart was right. And I think he's simply one of the smartest, most intelligent guys that's ever been on TV. And I'm excited that he's going to be back to at least once a week to do stuff. I think it's going to be kind of fun. Anyway, next up. Joey writes, I got Dune Part 2 early screening for February 25th at Spectrum. Nice. Didn't know there were tickets on sale till I looked at the app. It's Sunday at 7 p.m. in the IMAX. Well, damn it. I gotta see if I can find tickets for that. I will be my wife's hero forever if I can do that. That is pretty cool. I've gone to screenings at the Spectrum Center in Irvine, California. It's a great theater. I think it's a Regal. And yeah. Oh my God. Tavita Mafi is saying that Jim Harbaugh went to the Chargers. What? Hold a second. Just give me a second here. Just give me a second here. Chargers hiring Jim Harbaugh wins the national championship at Michigan and goes to the Chargers. Good time to be a Chargers fan. Good time to be a Chargers fan. Okay. Anyway, I'll get back to that later. All right. Sorry guys, my voice is starting to go. Next up, we've got Justin D, who writes, would you rather see a Yorgos Star Wars movie or Nolan? Nolan. And I don't mean that as any sort of a disparity on Yorgos, but Nolan, when you look at his like Batman Beyond, when you look at his Batman Dark Knight movies and stuff like that, I think his style would fit better with a Star Wars universe film. I think his style would fit better. So I'll say Nolan on that. Let's see. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, John, to me, the quote unquote Oscar bait notion makes no sense. Currently hurled at Bradley Cooper, as if actors purposely craft their performances to deceivingly get a nom. They just give their best. I'll tell you what, I've often thought that Oscar bait is one of the most idiotic statements I've ever heard. I've always thought it was one of the dumbest things that you can say. Oscar bait. What, you mean they made a movie as good as they could and they try to put artistic excellence into it with a great director and writers and actors performing it? Is that what you mean? Like a movie that would be so good that when the collective body of the movie industry gets together to vote on what they think they would the best, they would hope that their movie would be the best too? And you use this term Oscar bait. Honestly, I seriously think it's one of the most idiotic statements we as movie fans have ever come up with. It's like, wait a minute, that filmmaker's trying to make a movie of such excellence that his peers in the movie making industry will want to recognize it. What? Like saying signing Michael Jordan is just, oh, this is championship bait. Just championship bait. Yep. Well, what are we trying to do? We're trying to win games. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make the best movies possible. I'll never, you know what? Oscar bait is a term for me. Oscar bait is a term to me that you use and you realize you don't have anything else legitimately to say against something. I don't have anything legit to say against this, so I'll just call it Oscar bait. I don't get it. You know, I was having this discussion with somebody the other day. I won't say what the issue was because I don't want to open up this can of worms. But I was having this debate with somebody. And essentially, I just laid out some facts. And the facts in this particular instance clearly showed that this proposition this other person had was not true. This other person had a statement of fact. This. And then I said, well, okay, but here's a bunch of facts that clearly show that your statement isn't true. And they pulled out this line that to me is the go-to line for people who cannot win an argument. If you can't win an argument with facts, then you say this. And this is what this person said. It was like, well, here's all these facts that show that you're wrong. Well, yeah, but you got to read between the lines. You got to read between the lines is the go-to statement for people who realize they can't win an argument. In this instance, I won't say what the main issue was, but this person was saying, that person thinks this and this. And I'm like, well, that's not true. Here are recorded statements from that person saying completely the opposite. Like, clearly, you're wrong. that this person does not believe the things you're saying because here are their explicit statements. Here's what they've explicitly done. Yeah, but you got to read between the lines. What the fuck does that mean? Anyway, sorry, that just reminded me of like when people like, I've got nothing that I can rationally say against this movie. So I'll call it a name. I'll call it Oscar bait. I just think it's, and you know what? I've been guilty of it. I've done that before myself. So I'm not just pointing the finger at other people. I'm pointing the finger at me too. I infuriate myself that I've done it. Right? I think it's just one of the dumbest things that we as movie fans can try to label a movie. Anyway, that's just me. I went off on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry about that. All right. Next up. Talking Star Wars writes, when do you think we'll get a teaser for Joker 2? Listen, honestly, my answer is usually the same. Why do we care? Why do we care when a teaser? It's going to be a commercial. But okay, so the movie comes out in October. It's now January. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. The movie is still 9 months away. Still 9 months out. So if they're smart, they won't give us a first trailer or teaser till at least minimum 4 or 5 months out. So June, July, August, September. So I would say May or June. May or June. I think would be a rational time. Because in June, you'd still be 4 months out, right? June, July, August, September, October, right? So May, you're 5 months out. I think that's the most you should be away from a movie before putting out a trailer. So 4 or 5 months out, yeah, I'll say May or June. That'll be my guess. May or June is when we'll get our first teaser. Other than that, it's a waste of time because they would just be wasting their advertising dollars because any buzz that gets generated, like if they put out a teaser next week, any buzz that gets generated is just going to dissipate and evaporate by the time, we get to April. So they'd just be wasting their money. So I'm going to guess May or June. Calvin Patel is saying Comic-Con. I think that's July. I don't think they'll wait till 3 months out to put out their first teaser for Joker 2. So I think it'll be before Comic-Con. All right. Next up, we go to CJ Adams writes, have you seen Has Been Hotel on Prime? No, I know somebody else brought that up the other day, and I mentioned I'd never even heard of it. It's a raunchy animated show like Harley Quinn. It is some of the best music. I've been listening nonstop. No, until somebody else, pardon me, wrote in and asked me about it the other day. I had never even heard of it. Like never even heard of it. So no, I have not seen Has Been Hotel because I still haven't seen a poster for it. I still haven't seen a trailer for it. Nothing like that. All right. We've already gone over an hour, but we got one last question to do. And that comes to us from Alex Von Gollum, who writes, Gio, that Shogun second trailer had me beyond drooling. I cannot wait to see it. And it has Hiroyuki Sanada and the cinematography. Hiroyuki Sanada is, what can you say about him? Whether he's in John Wick 4 or something like Mortal Kombat, whenever, you know how Rob's got this saying that a particular actor classes up a joint. Sanada is one of these actors who just instantly classes up a joint when he's in something. Sorry guys, I'm almost done here. My level of excitement for Shogun cannot be defined in words. I am beyond myself with excitement for this show. I am going to do a weekly after show for this. And I haven't done a weekly after show in a long time, but I'm going to do it for Shogun. And I cannot wait. That trailer is absolute fire, Alex. And I am just counting down the days, man. Counting down the days until it comes. All right, guys. With that down, that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and joining me here today. I really appreciate big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so much for your support. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow for the John Campea Show. It'll be me, Jonathan, Ray, and of course, Chris Carr will be back on tomorrow. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys there. So, oh boy. Pardon me, guys. I got to get another Halls going. So I better go. That'll do it for me. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.